Hi, and welcome to Singing and the Brain. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what singing does to our brain when we're singing, when we're hearing other people sing. So I am Ana Alicia Lopez, and I'm a board-certified music therapist. I'm the owner and director of the House of Music Therapy. And with me today,
My name is Michaela Wallace, and I am a music therapy intern currently studying at Florida Gulf Coast University, and I am working with Anna towards my internship.
that's right, to become a board-certified music therapist as well. So a little overview. But first, I want to play a little game, Michaela. So I want to know, let's see if we can stump each other. And you all listening can play along and test your skills. What do you know about some of these common misconceptions about music and the brain? One of my favorites, left versus right brain theory. So music is only housed in one side of your brain, in that creative, artistic side of your brain, while the other side is just purely logic. Is that true or false?
That's completely false.
Totally false, right? Music, all areas of our brain. Ooh,
Ooh, how about this one? The Mozart effect, that Mozart makes babies smart, and that listening to Mozart is going to help you perform better on thinking tasks. True or false?
false. Oversimplification. Ooh, how about this? Classical music is calming for everyone. True or false?
I'm going to go with false on that one.
That's a hard false. We all have our own idea of what relaxing music is. And let me just say, I think Carmina Burana to most people would be classified as classical music and is not exactly calming for me. All right, let's see. What do we have here?
Ooh, that listening to your favorite music is going to help you retain information while studying.
I'm definitely going to say, even though it might be fun, it is false, especially if your favorite music contains a lot of lyrics or spoken parts, and you're trying to sit there and memorize some words on a sheet, information. Competing stimuli, not going to work. Ooh, how about this? People who can't sing are tone deaf. True or false?
That's false.
It's probably going to be false. Most likely will be false. Tone deafness is actually a neurologic disorder. That's pretty rare, extremely rare. So most people who say they can't sing because they're tone deaf, they just haven't developed that skill enough. They can learn.
All right, how about this? Music is a universal language.
I mean, I want to say yes, but
It, it is not. Our idea of what is good music to us here in Western culture is totally different than what it is in Eastern culture, and that's just what we've been acclimated to. So, us as Westerners, we're not going to understand Tuvan throat singing out of Siberia, but they think it's absolutely beautiful.
right? So let's see. Music is in the ear of the beholder. All right, so brief overview. Michaela, lobes of the brain.
Alrighty. So the temporal lobe is right here, and it houses your auditory cortex. The occipital lobe is in the back of your brain, and it houses your visual cortex. The parietal is on the top half of your brain, and it houses your sensory. And your frontal houses your motor cortex. It's in the front of your brain, and it also houses your higher level thinking.
That's right. Now, a couple of other areas that are really important, but we won't discuss too much, are
the cerebellum, which is at the bottom of the brain, and it's considered your little brain, responsible for kind of motor coordination and rote movements. And then your brain stem, which really just regulates your autonomic functions. So breathing, your heart rate, eating, sleeping, etc.
That's right. Okay, so it's important to understand this term called plasticity. So plasticity is extremely important to our brains. Plasticity helps us learn and grow and develop. And one thing that supports and improves our brain's plasticity is singing. So here's how singing support our plasticity, and here's why it's important to be very plastic. All right, so plasticity is important for our brain because it helps our brain organize information, helps our brain structure information. Now, because music is so structured in itself, because of rhythm and harmony and tonality, because of all of those structures in music, music helps our brain become even more structured. So plasticity is important to our brain in order to adapt to new information, right? It helps our brain adapt to change. So music helps us adapt to change because music is organized and is so complex. So plasticity helps our brain to become more responsive, to have those quicker responses, right? To respond to new information quickly. And music, with the organization that music brings, helps improve that responsiveness. And also, there it is, plasticity is important to our brain in order to gain lots of information all at once. And because of the complexity in music and learning music and organizing all of the stimuli that comes through with music, we can help our brain to accept more and more and more information. So let's talk about the singing brain. How and where does singing impact our brain? So it's important to understand first some brain functions that we have, like moving around in time and space. It's important to know that our brain functions, right, our hearing, listening, and all of our sensory systems, like our touch and tactile information, our vision, our smelling, and our tasting, right? So how does singing impact all of these different areas of our brain? So we have our brain functions in those main 4 areas. And this first temporal area here is our auditory cortex that processes all of the auditory information that we get. Back here we have that. In our occipital lobe, we have our visual cortex that processes all of the visual information that we get. Right here we have the parietal lobe that processes that our senses, like our smell, taste, touch, and all of those things, and also like proprioception and balance and stuff like that. And then right here in the frontal lobe, we have our primary motor cortex, right? So that's what really helps our body move around. So if you notice that our motor and somatosensory are super close to each other, and it's because they talk to each other a lot and they work with each other really closely. So does that auditory cortex. It works really, really closely with those motor systems. So Michaela, how does singing impact these different areas of our brain?
So let's house this in a choir rehearsal. So in rehearsal, you are watching your conductor, hopefully. You are reading your music, and you're also watching the peers that are around you for, you know, you're breathing together, because when you breathe together, you sing together. With the somatosensory cortex, I mean, you're talking about the vibrotactile of being in a room with a bunch of acoustics that you can actually feel the sound vibrations around you. On top of that, you can also feel the sound vibrations within your chest voice and within your head voice. Furthermore, in your motor cortex, there's something called, your oral motor, where you're talking and you're forming, certain vowels in the way that you need to do to produce sound. On top of that, you're coordinating your tongue, you're coordinating your breathing and your diaphragm to be able to push out that air to make sound. And then your auditory cortex, for hearing those around you, and then hearing yourself and being able to discriminate if you are singing with your peers, if you are not on pitch, if you are singing too loud when everybody else is singing piano. That's all housed in the auditory cortex.
That's right. And a little bit more information on how singing and those musical elements impact our functioning is, for example, rhythm and motor, right? We need that rhythm to know when to sing, right? To know when to use our voice, to know when to breathe, right? We can count in, right? So that's just kind of a way that rhythm impacts this, our singing, our rhythmic singing impacts our motor functioning, which is really, really neat. It organizes that information. All right, so bringing singing to life. And we know it impacts so many different areas of our brain, but how does that actually help us? Why is that important for life? It's extremely important. So singing and creating music produces a chemical, a hormone in our brain called endorphins. Endorphins are known as the happy, feel-good hormone. Endorphins are just what make us feel good, right? We can also get it from exercise. But singing is one way for us to feel good and bring in those feel-good hormones. So singing also really helps us by allowing us to express ourselves, allowing us to, express the way we feel, and also understanding what somebody else is feeling. It's also an extremely accessible tool and instrument to use, and it can bring community. And, just in that, I automatically think of, as we went into this pandemic, and, my brain automatically goes to, Italy and all of those community music making and singing that came out of quarantine. We couldn't be near each other, but we could find that human connection through singing across the way. So singing and speech. Singing, we know, is very organized by using melody, pitch, harmony, rhythm, right? So singing is processed much easier than speaking in our brain because of all of those musical elements, where speech is a lot more unpredictable. So if you have a speech impairment, if you lost your speech from maybe a traumatic brain injury, or if you're just learning how to speak, oftentimes it's easier to sing rather than to speak because of the organization that singing provides, right? So if we think about learning and memory, think about how you've learned your ABCs, right? You don't speak your ABCs, you sing your ABCs. And even now, I think about it when I'm going through the alphabet, I sing it in my head, right? It's just so much easier to learn with that organization. Same thing with memory. So we know that music elicits emotion, right? Singing songs and lyrics elicit emotion. So because of that emotion that's so ingrained in us, right, through music, oftentimes singing is one of the last memories to go. Whether you've lost your memory and cannot recognize friends or faces, you can oftentimes still remember lyrics to your favorite song. So singing and vision, just like Michaela mentioned earlier, using your vision to cue singing, right? Speaking of cueing, we can also cue by using our auditory system. So we're going to play a little game here, right? So I'm going to count you in, right? 1, 2, 3. I'm going to give you 3 counts, Michaela. We're going to play a game. And first of all, Michaela, do you have perfect pitch?
No.
All right, good. Neither do I, right? So I'm going to count you in 1, 2, 3. And after 3, I want you to sing G. Sing a G, all right? Here we go. So I'm just going to count you in using my fingers, not my voice. All right, first of all, let's see if you can come in on my cue, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see if you sang G. Are you ready? Here we go. All right, so the cue rhythm wasn't too bad, right? But do we know if that was G?
No idea.
Not really, because neither one of us have perfect pitch. So let's see if that was G.
No.
No, that was not G. So now your feedback loop is saying, oh, that was wrong. All right, so I'm going to give you an auditory cue this time. All right, so I want you to sing C. All right, I'm going to give you 3 beats just like I did, but this time your beats will be, will not be visual, they will be auditory, right, cues. So let's see if you can find C. Here we go. Were you right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could find it. You even corrected yourself before I even gave you the pitch, right? So that was your feedback loop working. You knew where you needed to go because you knew where you came from, because music, because you heard the cues, and those cues, those musical cues help your brain organize information to understand what needs to come next. All right, so last but not least, that vibrotactile stimulation and feeling where the music is coming from, where the songs are coming from, where your voice is coming from, and also feeling in the room where music, external music is coming from. So I like to think of it this way. When we're using all of our senses, say we're in a large auditorium and we are performing, maybe the choir, symphony orchestra is performing together, right? And well, there's a lot to look at. But usually when we're performing, it's quite dark out in the audience and the lights are shining in our eyes. And usually the only thing you can see semi-clearly, maybe depending on where you are standing, is the conductor, right? So maybe it's also really loud, or maybe it's like really hot or tight, whatever. So if you can't hear anything, then you might depend on your vision to cue you in. If you can't see anything, maybe you have to depend on your auditory discrimination to help you listen to where you need to sing and when you need to sing and how you need to sing. If you can't see or hear, you have to depend on that vibrotactile stimulation and your thinking to count you in, right? To hear and feel what you need to sing and when. All right, so singing impacts so many different areas of our brain. So let's wrap it up here. Oh, I'm gonna get my PowerPoint back. All right, there we go. So singing is a lot more important to us than a hobby, right? I've made a whole career out of it as a music therapist. Not everybody gets it. It's a good meme that you found, Michaela. But it's an incredibly important part of our lives, and it's something that we should continue to do if at all possible. It helps our brain. It does make us smarter with music education and learning. It does support your brain in every aspect of our lives and all in every part of our brain. So singing is incredibly important to life. So Michaela, I mean, I'm a music therapist. You're studying to become a music therapist. We know music performers, right, are out there and needed and enjoyed thoroughly. But what are some other professions that vocalists and singers students can continue and maybe look forward to incorporating into their lives or becoming as a career?
I mean, there's music education, and that is across all kinds of age groups. It's like you don't have to necessarily be a choral director. You could decide that you want to teach elementary music. Um, Even in a different direction, uh, producing music. I know several people who, produce music for a living.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah, singing is a huge part of our development and our life, and you know, should continue to be. And we should encourage each other in our community, especially those who might, you know, might be too nervous to sing or make music. Music is for everyone, and we should encourage it all the way. All right. Thank you so much for listening. If you want more information about singing and the brain, about music in the brain, or about music therapy, please reach out to us here at the House of Music Therapy by visiting our website at www.thehouseofmusictherapy.com. Thank you.